what I hear you saying all the time is get very simple when it comes to brain care. In fact, you guys start, when I say guys, again, I'm referring to you and Dr. Daniel Amen, but with starting with care. Like, you first have to care. Unpack that a little bit for us, because I know parents care.
Yeah.
And I've heard you say this before as well. They care almost overly in ratio when they're in pregnancy. They're eating for their unborn child. They're doing their sleeping for their unborn child. They're doing maybe even for brain health and growth. But as soon as that unborn child is born onto the world, it's kind of like, well, we just have to make sure they get enough calories.
Yep.
And it's a sort of...
That was actually part of what I put in my notes when I was going to be on this pod. And that and the stats for the ADD. And so it's really interesting that you guys brought that up. That's what I've noticed. So when women get pregnant, there's this very excited feeling. They want to do all the right things. This is what I've seen. And they just, I even had this a little bit because I think it gets harder once you have a baby and they get fussy and you're tired and you're busy, and especially if you're working, and all of a sudden it's like, just make sure they're getting food because, and then they're going to school and they've got awful school lunches, or people are serving cupcakes and they're serving all of this stuff, and you lose that. You feel like you don't have control. It's not true. I think that's the first thing is you have to take your control back and stop having the sense that you don't have control. It's not really about control, but it's you do have to have that empowerment of like, this isn't about me being out of control. So I think that's where I've seen it get really dicey. After birth, it's not as easy. But when they get into preschool, that's when it gets really hard. And that's what I've seen, is that's when parents are like, I have no control anymore because they're going to their friends' houses and there's birthday parties and there's, and then my kid's the weird kid, and they have all these negative thoughts. And so back to your original question, yes, you have to care. And so my husband would say you have to have brain envy. And so in this case, I would say you just have to like simplify it with your child. And it's like, I want to focus on health. You just have to like really be thinking, what is health and what is not health, right? And start there.
Yeah.
So
words of wisdom.
let's simplify it even more. So let's say in that age group, from birth until 2 years old, where the brain's growing so much, and the baby is still under your control, mostly, then what is the worst food you can give? And what is the best food you can give in those first 2 years?
So I'm going to everybody says this, and I'm going to keep pounding on it. Sugar, and it's in everything. Yeah. The sugar and the dyes. And I think those are two of the biggest culprits. But sugar is in everything. And parents don't really even know what to look for because there's so many names for sugar. And so that becomes an issue. And so when you're giving children that much sugar all the time, you're crowding out other nutrients, first of all. It sets them up for lots of brain issues along the way. And we've seen that's, a lot of behavioral issues, a lot of mood issues, rapid brain cell firing, the problems. You showed the stats for diabetes. I actually had those stats ready to go. But what happens is, you're getting these spikes in blood sugar and then these drops. And childhood obesity is through the roof. So sugar, and more sugar. You've got to get rid of the sugar. At least minimize it.
Yep. And best food?
Well, obviously the whole foods. So I think one of the things, and parents are like, well, my kids won't eat it. And I think one of the things I learned, and I love this, when I learned it, I stopped fighting with my daughter. And I thought this was so important. There's a reason kids don't like the taste of certain vegetables. And I didn't know this until I really got into doing my book, was that their taste buds aren't developed. It's like you think it's a battle of wills. It's really not. They actually they haven't developed those taste buds. And so that tastes really awful to them, different than it does to you. And all of a sudden, when they're 16, 17, 20, they're fine with it, right? So when I learned that, I'm like, I'm not going to fight her on the ones she absolutely won't eat. I'm going to focus on the ones she will. We named broccoli trees. We came up with little names for things so that she would like it. And then I found ways to hide it. I would like blend up vegetables, put it in, chili, or I'd put it in her favorite foods. And I found ways to rehab her favorite recipes. So if she liked chicken fingers, I just made healthy chicken fingers. So finding a way to get those vegetables, because when you ask the question, which foods, whole foods, it's not going to change, right? It's going to be vegetables, it's going to be protein and healthy fat. Those are the things. And when kids get those sugary, simple carb breakfasts before school or before preschool, then you get the call, your kid is out of control. I think they have ADD. We got to start there. That's what we do at our clinics. We actually start with nutrition. That's one of the cornerstones. So getting the sugar out, getting the whole foods back in, not fighting with them. And the other thing we do is we make it a game. So in our house, it became a game. And so we tried to make it fun. It's not about fighting with them.
Absolutely agree to that. And in previous episodes, we've spoken to, some other experts like Dr. Bill Sears. And one thing that we've all kind of agreed on, we share this idea that creating a sense of empowerment with a child to audit the fridge for the rainbow. That is to say, let them decide if they're out of purple. If grapes happen to be, and to your point, their favorite purple fruit, well, then bring them shopping and have them empowered to pull purple grapes into the basket, or if it's out of red. But as soon as you empower them by letting them audit the fridge, they will start to remind you. It is that empowerment that you brought up a moment ago.